basement of the ruins was cold and damp. The air smelled of stone and rust, and each step echoed like a warning. Daniel held his small flashlight tight in his hand, the only light guiding him through the forgotten tunnels. Dust rose with every step, swirling like ghosts that had been sleeping for centuries. He was not a soldier. He was not an explorer. He was just a man sent to check the structure, nothing more. But as he moved deeper, something strange stirred in the air, a low hum that made his chest tighten. It was not the sound of pipes or metal. It was alive. Daniel paused, his heart pounding. He told himself to turn back, but curiosity was stronger than fear. He followed the hum until it grew louder, until the walls around him seemed to vibrate. At the end of the passage, the floor opened into a vast chamber. His light swept across broken pillars and strange carvings on the walls. Symbols he could not understand glowed faintly, like fireflies trapped in stone. And then, he saw her. At first, his mind refused to believe it. In the center of the chamber stood a figure taller than any human he had ever seen. She was at least 8 feet high, her body slim but powerful, built like a warrior. Her skin shimmered faintly under the light, a pale silver tone that seemed to drink in the darkness. Long strands of dark hair fell across her shoulders, framing a face that was both fierce and hauntingly beautiful. Daniel froze. Every story, every warning about the alien ruins came rushing back to him. People said no human should disturb this place. Some said the warriors of the past still slept beneath the stone. And now, one of them stood right before him. The alien woman turned her head slowly, her golden eyes locked on his, glowing faintly as if they burned from within. Daniel felt small, smaller than he had ever felt in his life. She was not just tall, she carried the presence of someone who had lived through battles and victories long forgotten. He wanted to run, but his legs refused to move. The silence between them grew heavy, broken only by the sound of his shallow breathing. She tilted her head, studying him as though deciding whether he was a threat or something else. Her chest rose and fell slowly, her breathing deep but steady. Daniel lifted his flashlight higher, and the beam slid across the scars on her arms. Long, deep marks cut across her skin, proof that she had fought many times. Yet she still stood strong, unbroken, unbent. The hum in the air grew softer, as if it came from her. She took a single step forward. The ground trembled. Daniel's throat tightened. If she wanted to crush him, she could do it with one hand, but she did not strike. Instead, she bent down slightly, lowering herself to see him closer. Her eyes narrowed, curious, almost confused. Daniel's heart thundered in his chest. No one had ever stood this close to such a being, and lived to tell about it. The silence stretched until he could not bear it. His hand shook, his voice caught in his throat, but he whispered anyway. "Who are you?" The alien blinked, her lips parting as though she wanted to answer but could not. She lifted her hand, massive compared to his, and for a second Daniel thought this was the end. Her hand hovered in the air, inches from his chest, then stopped. The hum around them faded into silence. Her golden eyes softened, and her hand trembled. It was not rage, it was not hunger, it was something else, something no human had ever seen in her kind before. And Daniel realized one terrifying, wonderful truth. He was the first human to stand before her and live. Daniel's legs still shook from the first moment. His flashlight trembled in his hand, and yet he could not take his eyes away from her. The alien woman stood like a statue of power, tall and still, her golden eyes fixed on him. She was not just big, she was enormous. Her shadow swallowed the chamber. The stone floor seemed too weak to carry her weight. Daniel's breath came shallow. He wanted to move, to back away, but the air between them felt like an invisible wall, thick and heavy. The hum had stopped, but its echo lived in his bones. He realized now, it had not come from the walls. It had come from her. The stranger tilted her head slightly, her long hair sliding down her shoulders like black silk. Her gaze swept across his body, sharp and searching. as if she was reading his soul. Daniel could almost hear his own heartbeat louder than her movements. Then, slowly, she stepped forward. The sound was like thunder. Each movement of her foot shook the stones beneath them. Dust fell from the ceiling. Daniel's grip on the flashlight tightened so hard his knuckles turned white. He thought she would strike. That was what his mind screamed. She could crush him in an instant. His body wanted to run, but his feet stayed planted. Some strange force kept him there, facing her. Her eyes narrowed. She circled him. Not fast, not aggressive, more like a predator studying prey. Her height was overwhelming, and Daniel's neck ached as he tilted his head back to look at her face. She walked around him once, her massive shadow moving across the walls like a giant beast. Daniel's fear twisted into something else. Curiosity. He noticed details now. Her scars were not ugly. They told stories. Deep cuts along her forearm, healed burns across her shoulder, and faint marks at her side. Each one was proof she had fought, survived, and endured battles humans could not even imagine. Her breathing was slow and powerful, like the steady rhythm of a war drum. But Daniel also saw something strange. Her chest rose unevenly. She was calm on the outside, yet inside, she seemed uncertain. She leaned closer. Daniel felt the heat of her breath brush his face. The scent was not human. It was strange, metallic, almost electric, like air after lightning. He flinched but did not step back. Her golden eyes glowed brighter for a moment as though testing him. Daniel's instinct screamed, "Look away, show respect." But he didn't. For reasons he could not explain, he held her gaze. The alien paused, and for the first time her expression shifted. The hard, cold mask cracked just a little. Something softer flickered across her face. Surprise. Daniel's hand moved without thinking. His flashlight lowered, leaving her in near darkness. His free hand lifted, slowly, carefully, as if to say, "I'm not your enemy." His fingers hovered in the air between them, trembling. The alien woman stiffened. Her muscles tensed like a bowstring, her massive hand twitching as if deciding whether to strike. Her glowing eyes locked on his hand. For long seconds, neither of them moved. The air in the chamber grew so quiet that Daniel could hear the blood rushing in his ears. His hand hovered only inches from her arm. She leaned closer. The ground quivered under her weight. Her breath washed over him again. Daniel's pulse raced so fast it hurt, but he did not pull away. Her face was only a breath away from his now. And then, she lifted her hand. It was enormous compared to his, her fingers long and strong. She brought it close, but not to harm. Instead, she placed it near his raised hand, her palm open, not clenched. Daniel's heart stopped. She was not attacking. She was waiting. And in that instant, he understood. This towering stranger was testing him. Not his strength, not his weapons. She was testing his courage. Daniel's hand hung in the air, trembling, caught between fear and madness. The alien woman's hand was there too. Huge, powerful, waiting. For a long moment, the two of them did not move. It was as if time itself had frozen in that silent chamber. Then, against every instinct screaming inside him, Daniel stretched his fingers forward. He touched her. Her skin was not what he expected. It was warm, not cold like metal, not rough like stone. It was alive, smooth but strong, like a current of energy ran beneath it. A shock rushed up his arm, not painful, but sharp enough to make his breath catch. The alien stiffened. Her golden eyes widened. Her whole body trembled, as though no one had dared to lay a hand on her before. Daniel froze, afraid he had crossed a line. But she did not strike him down. Instead, she lowered her head slightly, her long hair sliding across her face as she stared at his hand resting against her arm. Her lips parted, a sound escaping, soft, broken, almost like a sigh. Daniel's mind raced. He was the first human to ever touch her kind, and she was letting him. The silence was thick, but not heavy with threat anymore. It was heavy with something else, a bond, a secret. The golden glow in her eyes flickered, and something stranger happened. Symbols on the walls, the same glowing carvings Daniel had seen earlier, brightened. Lines of light spread across the chamber, as if his touch had awakened something ancient. The alien's breath grew uneven. She shut her eyes for a moment, as if fighting something inside her. Then she looked at him again, and this time, Daniel saw not just power, but conflict. Why was she trembling? Why did her hand hover so close, yet not crush his bones? Slowly, carefully, she lifted her own hand and pressed it gently against his chest. The size difference was overwhelming. Her palm covered half his torso. Daniel gasped at the weight, but it was not violent. It was steady. Testing. He realized then, she was as cautious of him as he was of her. Her lips moved. Strange sounds came out. Her voice deep, yet soft, like thunder rolling in the distance. Daniel could not understand the words, but he felt their meaning in his bones. She was speaking, not to threaten, but to plead. The glow from her skin spread to her scars, faint lines of light running across the marks of her battles. Each scar lit like fire under his touch, and she shuddered as if his hand carried some hidden power. Daniel whispered, almost without thinking, "I won't hurt you." Of course, she did not understand his language, but the tone, the softness of his voice made her pause. Her golden eyes softened, and she pulled her hand slowly back to her side. For the first time, her expression shifted from cold to something almost human, fear, not fear of him, but of what had just happened. The chamber's glow dimmed, but not before Daniel noticed something carved high on the wall, a warning. The old language, half broken but still readable, spelled out one chilling truth. No human shall bond with the warriors. The punishment is death. Daniel's throat went dry. His hand fell back to his side, but the memory of her skin burned into him. She had felt it too. He saw it in her trembling shoulders, in her glowing eyes. Whatever just happened was not allowed. It was forbidden. The alien giantess turned her face away as if ashamed, but before Daniel could speak, the hum returned, louder this time. It rolled through the chamber, through the stones, through his bones. She stepped back quickly, her body tense, her eyes darting to the shadows at the edges of the ruins. Daniel's heart dropped. Something, or someone, was coming, and he realized with terror that by touching her, he had awakened not just her, but everything that watched over her. The chamber's walls pulsed faintly with light, as if reacting to what had just happened. Daniel's hand still tingled from the alien's skin. His mind spun. He had broken some kind of sacred rule. Yet he was still alive. The giantess did not attack him. She only stood there silent, her golden eyes burning with emotion she seemed unable to speak. Daniel's breath was shaky. "What are you?" he whispered, though he knew she would not understand. The alien lowered herself, bending her massive body until she was closer to his height. It was strange, such a towering creature making herself small before him. Her eyes were steady, searching, like she was trying to speak without words. Then she touched the floor with her hand, drawing a line in the dust. Her long finger traced shapes, symbols, curves, marks. Daniel could not read them, but he understood the attempt. She was trying to communicate. Her head tilted again and she placed her hand against her chest. Then she pointed at him, then back at herself. It was not language, but it was meaning. A bond. Daniel swallowed hard. Something inside him stirred. She was not his enemy. She was reaching out in the only way she could. The glow on the wall shifted again, faint lines connecting the carvings to where they stood. The chamber itself seemed to approve, or to warn. Daniel couldn't tell which. Her golden eyes softened. Slowly, carefully, she placed her hand near his again, not touching this time, just hovering. The silence between them was no longer filled with fear. It was heavy with something unspoken. Trust. Daniel raised his hand and hovered it close to hers, leaving only a breath of space. The air vibrated between them, charged with invisible energy. His heart hammered, yet he could not step away. She exhaled slowly, a sound deep and trembling. Then, in a voice like stone cracking, she whispered something. The so and was alien, ancient. But Daniel felt the emotion behind it. Loneliness. It struck him like a blade. She had been alone for so long, guarding, sleeping, waiting. He did not know. But her silence, her trembling breath, her careful eyes, they all spoke the same truth. Daniel lowered his flashlight, leaving them in dim, glowing light. In the half-darkness, she looked less like a monster and more like a woman burdened by centuries. Her scars were maps of pain. Her silence was her cage. And now, for the first time, someone had stepped inside that cage. The moment stretched. Her lips parted, and a strange hum left her throat. It wasn't a warning this time. It was soft. It was almost a song. Daniel froze, caught in its rhythm. His chest tightened, as if the sound was not just reaching his ears, but sinking into his bones. The ruins vibrated gently, as though the walls themselves were listening. He didn't know how long it lasted. Seconds, minutes. But when it stopped, the silence returned. Different now. Softer. The alien giantess leaned closer, her face inches from his. For the first time, her golden eyes did not look cold. They looked almost fragile. Daniel whispered again, even though he knew she would not understand. You're not alone anymore. Her hand trembled, her eyes flickered, but she did not move away. Instead, she stayed close, silent, yet bound to him by something invisible. Then, a loud crack split the chamber. The glowing lines on the walls flickered violently. The ground shook beneath them. The alien giantess jerked her head up, her face darkening. She turned toward the tunnel, her eyes narrowing into fury. Daniel felt the chill rush through him. Whatever bond had formed between them, it had been seen. Someone, or something, was coming to break it. The ground split with another crack. Dust rained down from the ceiling and Daniel stumbled back, shielding his face. The faint glowing lines across the walls flickered wildly, as if warning him to run. The alien giantess rose to her full height again, towering above him. Her body tensed, her golden eyes sharp and fierce now. Whatever gentle silence had existed between them was broken in an instant. The hum returned, louder, stronger, rolling through the chamber like a storm. Daniel clutched his ears, but the sound was inside his skull, vibrating against his bones. His knees buckled. He felt as if unseen voices were shouting directly into his mind. Then the carvings lit up with fire-like light, and a voice, deep, ancient, and cold, echoed from everywhere at once. The bond is forbidden. Daniel's blood turned to ice. He spun around, but no one was there. Only the carvings burned brighter, pulsing with every word. The alien giantess growled low in her throat, her lips curling in anger. She raised her arm as if to shield Daniel from the voices. Her body trembled, not with fear, but with rage. Again the voice thundered, "No human may touch the warrior blood. To do so is death, for him and for her." Daniel's heart pounded. He finally understood the danger. He hadn't just broken some rule, he had put both their lives at risk. The alien looked down at him, her face carved with conflict. Her golden eyes darted to his hand, then back to the glowing walls. She breathed fast, heavy, like a beast deciding whether to fight or flee. Daniel whispered hoarsely, What are they?" She did not answer. Instead, she reached down and grabbed his arm, firm, but not cruel. The sudden force nearly pulled him off his feet. He gasped as she dragged him toward the far side of the chamber. The carvings glowed brighter, and the voice rose into a furious roar. You cannot hide. The hunters will come. The tunnel ahead quaked. Stones tumbled. Daniel stumbled, but the alien giantess pulled him forward, her massive hand locked around his wrist. He could feel the raw strength in her grip, but also something else, a desperate need to protect him. They moved fast through the darkness, her strides long and powerful. Daniel struggled to keep up, his legs burning, his lungs on fire. Still, she did not slow. At last, they burst into a narrow corridor, far from the glowing chamber. Here the air was colder, the walls rough with age. The hum had softened, but Daniel could still hear faint whispers crawling after them. The alien stopped suddenly, turning her head back. Her ears twitched, her body tense. She leaned close to Daniel and pressed her finger against her lips, a universal command for silence. Daniel froze, nodding quickly. His chest heaved with breath, but he forced himself to stay quiet. For a long moment, they listened. The ruin groaned. Distant echoes bounced through the stone. And then, faintly, like the hiss of a serpent, came another whisper. He is marked. She is marked. They cannot escape. Daniel's stomach dropped. Marked? Did that mean tracked? The alien giantess clenched her jaw and slammed her hand against the wall. Strange symbols flared faintly where her palm touched, then faded again. Daniel realized she was sealing the chamber, buying them time. Finally, she turned to him. Her face lowered until her golden eyes were level with his. For the first time, Daniel saw something raw in them, not just strength, but desperation. She touched her chest with one hand, then pointed at him again, her lips moving soundlessly. He didn't understand the words, but the meaning was clear. Stay with me. Daniel's heart hammered. He had no choice now. He was bound to her fate. The ruin shifted again, a deep rumble shaking dust from the ceiling. Daniel glanced back at the darkness they had fled. He could feel the presence behind them, strong, ancient, merciless. Whatever hunters the voice had promised, they were already awake. The tunnels twisted like a maze, endless stone passages carved by hands long gone. Daniel stumbled as the alien giantess pulled him forward, her grip unyielding. His legs burned, his lungs screamed, but she never slowed. Her strides were longer than his entire body, and yet she dragged him as if he weighed nothing. Behind them, the ruins stirred with life. At first it was only whispers, like the faint hiss of wind. Then came the sound of stone grinding against stone, echoing through the corridors. Daniel risked a glance back, and his blood ran cold. From the shadows crawled shapes, tall, armored, and glowing faintly. Their bodies seemed carved from the ruins themselves. Hunters. Their faces were hidden by masks of bone and iron. Long weapons glinted in their hands, shaped like spears yet humming with strange energy. Their steps were slow, but each one shook the ground. Daniel gasped. They're real. The alien giantess growled low in her throat, her golden eyes flashing. She pulled Daniel tighter and pushed him ahead, forcing him to run. The air grew heavy, every breath thick as if the ruins themselves were pressing down on them. The hunters moved faster now. Their armor clanked, their spears sparked. The corridor lit with faint red lines along the walls, markings that seemed to guide the hunters straight toward them. Daniel's chest tightened with dread. They can track us. The alien seemed to understand. She stopped suddenly, turning to face the hunters. Her body loomed tall, her stance fierce. Daniel nearly slammed into her back, his heart leaping to his throat. For a moment, silence. The hunters advanced slowly, their glowing eyes locked on them. Then one raised its spear, the tip sparking with deadly light. The alien roared. The sound thundered through the stone, so powerful that Daniel fell to his knees. It was not just a cry of anger, it was defiance. A warning. The hunters hesitated, their steps faltering for just a breath. Then the alien spun, dragging Daniel into a side passage. They ran again, her body moving like a beast born for war. Dust and stone rained down with each stride. Daniel's legs screamed in pain, but he forced himself to keep running. Every instinct told him, if he stopped, even for a second, he would never rise again. The hunter's footsteps grew louder behind them. Spears clashed against the walls, sending sparks through the tunnel. The chase was relentless. At last they burst into a wide cavern. The ceiling stretched high and broken statues lined the walls. Faint light poured in from cracks above, moonlight. Daniel gasped, finally seeing something beyond the ruins choking dark. But his relief was short-lived. From the opposite side of the cavern, more hunters emerged. Their masks gleamed, their weapons raised. The sound of stone grinding filled the air, sealing off their escape. They were surrounded. Daniel's knees weakened. His heart sank. There was no way out. The alien giantess stepped forward, placing herself between him and the hunters. Her massive body blocked him completely like a living shield. Her golden eyes glowed fiercely as she spread her arms wide. The hunters did not rush her. They stood still, circling, their weapons humming louder. Daniel realized they were not just soldiers. They were executioners. The alien lowered her head, her dark hair falling across her face. She glanced back at Daniel once, just once, her eyes softening for a heartbeat. It was not fear. It was a promise. Then she clenched her fists, her scars glowing faintly with the same strange light as the ruins. The chamber shook under her roar. The hunters charged, and Daniel, trapped behind her, understood one thing clearly. The hunt had truly begun. The cavern rang with the clash of stone and thunder. The alien giantess struck with her bare hands, her blows shattering the hunters' spears like brittle wood. Sparks flew, walls cracked, and the ground shook beneath her fury. Daniel crouched behind a broken statue, heart hammering. He watched as she fought with strength far beyond anything human. But it wasn't just strength. There was pain in her movements, a wild rage born from years of silence. One by one, the hunters fell. Their bodies crumbled into dust and stone, returning to the ruins that had birthed them. Yet more poured in from the shadows, their glowing eyes never blinking. Daniel shouted, "We can't stay here. They'll keep coming." The alien giantess turned, chest heaving, her golden eyes locked on him. For a moment, her fierce mask cracked. She looked at him not like prey, but like something she could not lose. She grabbed his arm and pulled him through a narrow passage at the cavern's edge. They stumbled into a smaller chamber, walls glowing faintly with soft blue light. It was quieter here, as if the hunters dared not follow. The alien giantess collapsed against the wall, her massive shoulders rising and falling with heavy breaths. Daniel sat across from her, gasping for air. For the first time since meeting her, he saw weakness in her face. Not defeat, but exhaustion. She lowered her head and spoke. Her words were broken, strained, but this time, different. "I am Shara." Daniel froze. She had spoken in his language. Rough, halting, but clear enough. He whispered, "Shara, that's your name?" She nodded slowly, her dark hair falling over her scarred face. She tapped her chest with a hand, then pointed upward, toward the ceiling, where faint light leaked through cracks. Her lips moved again. "Queen, Mother." Daniel's eyes widened, his mind raced. She was not just any warrior, she was the leader of the alien queen. His chest tightened as her words sank in. No wonder the ruins came alive when he touched her. No wonder the hunters chased them with endless fury. She was not just dangerous, she was forbidden. Shara's voice trembled as she continued, forcing broken English from her throat. "I chosen rule, but..." She touched the scars on her arms, her eyes darkening. "Fear. Alone." Daniel understood. She was meant to inherit power, to rule her people. Yet instead of respect, they gave her fear. Her own kind had treated her as a weapon, not a daughter. For the first time, Daniel felt something deeper than fear. He felt sorrow for her. He whispered, That's why they want you trapped here. Because you chose me." Her golden eyes flickered, shining brighter at his words. She pressed her massive hand against the ground, and the blue light from the walls grew stronger, revealing ancient carvings across the chamber. Daniel stood slowly, staring at the symbols. They told a story. Warriors kneeling before a tall queen, a daughter standing apart, her form larger than all others. And beside her, a smaller figure, a human. His stomach tightened. The carvings predicted this moment. Him. Shira lowered her head. "First, bond." Her voice shook. "Not allowed." Daniel stepped closer, ignoring the tremble in his legs. "Maybe it's not allowed, but it already happened." Her eyes snapped to him. For a moment, silence stretched. Then she did something he never expected. She smiled. It was faint, fragile, almost broken, but it was real. Daniel felt the weight of the world pressing down on him. Hunters would come again. The queen herself might rise to stop this bond. But in that moment, under the glow of ancient carvings, he knew the truth. Shira wasn't just a stranger. She wasn't just a towering alien. She was a daughter cast aside, a queen's heir unloved, and now be onto him. And somewhere above them, in a palace of iron and fire, her mother, the alien queen, must already know. The chamber's glow faded as Shira rose to her full height again. Her golden eyes no longer looked soft. They burned with fierce light. Daniel could feel it. The time of hiding was over. Something greater was coming. A low rumble shook the walls stronger than before. Dust rained from the ceiling, cracks spreading across the stone like veins of fire. Daniel grabbed the wall for balance, his heart racing. "Shira," he whispered, fear in his voice. "What's happening?" She did not answer. She only turned her gaze upward, her jaw tight. For the first time, Daniel noticed the fear in her eyes. Not fear of death, but fear of who was coming. Then the ceiling split apart. Light poured in, blinding and fierce. Through the broken stone descended figures clad in silver armor, taller even than the hunters. Their spears blazed with energy, humming with deadly power. They did not crawl like stone guardians. They moved like living beings. And at their center came a presence that froze Daniel's blood. She was even taller than Shira, her crown carved of bone and crystal, her robe flowing like living shadows. Her eyes glowed red gold, deeper and sharper than Shira's. Her face was beautiful, but cruel, like a storm that would never end. The alien queen. Daniel staggered back, his chest tightened as the truth sank in. This was Shira's mother. The queen's gaze swept across the chamber, falling on Shira first. Her voice was soft, but it carried power that shook the walls. "Daughter." Shira's body tensed. She lowered her head, fists clenched. For a moment, Daniel thought she might kneel, but she did not. She stood tall, her frame trembling yet unbroken. The queen's gaze shifted to Daniel, her lips curled, not in anger, but in disgust. A human. The soldiers behind her laughed cruelly, their armored feet striking the stone. One lifted a spear toward Daniel as if to end him. Instantly. But Shira moved, her body snapping between them like a shield. Her roar echoed, shaking the chamber. The queen's expression hardened. "So it is true," she said, her voice colder than ice. "You touched him. You bonded." Shira's chest rose and fell sharply. Her lips moved, her voice breaking, but strong. "Mine." Daniel's heart stopped. She had claimed him, before her mother, before the soldiers, before all. The queen's eyes burned with fury. She lifted her arm, and her soldiers leveled their spears. "You shame your bloodline, Shira. This bond will be erased. The human dies." Daniel's breath caught. He stumbled backward, panic rising, but Shira stood like a mountain, her golden eyes blazing. "No!" Her voice cracked like thunder. The queen narrowed her eyes. "You dare?" The chamber quaked as power rolled from the queen's body. The carvings on the walls glowed red now, pulsing with her fury. Daniel covered his face, the heat almost unbearable. But Shara did not move. She lowered herself slightly, spreading her arms wide, her massive frame forming a wall between Daniel and the queen. Her voice shook the air again. "He lives. I choose." Daniel's chest tightened. He had never seen such defiance. She was not just fighting soldiers. She was standing against her mother, the ruler of her people. For a long, tense moment, the chamber held its breath. The queen stared at her daughter, rage and disbelief twisting across her face. Finally, she lifted her hand again. "Then you will fight. Prove your choice in the trial." The soldiers slammed their spears against the stone in unison. The sound echoed like drums of war. Daniel's stomach dropped. He had no idea what the trial meant, but the way the soldiers grinned told him it was not survival they expected. Shira looked back at him once, her golden eyes softer now, almost gentle. Then she turned back to her mother, her jaw set. She had chosen, and there was no turning back. The confrontation had only just begun. The cavern transformed into an arena. Walls of glowing light rose around Daniel and Shara, sealing them inside. The alien queen stood high above, her soldiers forming a circle of steel and shadows. Their spears struck the ground in rhythm, echoing like drums of war. Daniel's chest tightened. His legs shook. He had never felt so small, so weak, standing inside this prison of light. The queen's voice thundered. "If your bond is real, then survive. If he dies, so do you." The ground split open. From the darkness below, a roar shook the chamber. Daniel's blood turned cold. Slowly, a massive beast rose from the pit. Its body was covered in black scales, each one shimmering like glass. Its head was monstrous, with jaws lined in jagged teeth. 6 glowing eyes burned across its skull, and claws as long as swords tore at the stone. The beast's roar was so loud that Daniel fell to his knees, his hands covering his ears. Shara stood tall, unflinching. Her golden eyes locked on the creature with fury. Daniel gasped, "We can't fight that. We'll die." But Shara crouched low beside him, her massive hand pressed against his chest. Her voice was low, heavy, but calm. "Together." Daniel's throat tightened. She was asking him to stand with her, not as prey, not as burden, but as a partner. The beast lunged. Shara roared back, grabbing Daniel and throwing him aside just as the monster's claws ripped through the ground. Stone shattered, dust filling the air. Daniel coughed, scrambling to his feet. He had nothing, no weapon, no armor, just his bare hands. Shara charged, her fists glowing faintly as she struck the beast across its jaw. The sound was like thunder meeting steel. The monster reeled, but it was not defeated. It lashed out, tail whipping through the air. Daniel dove, the tail smashing into the ground where he had stood. His heart pounded as he looked at the broken shards of stone. One hit, and he would be crushed. The beast roared again, swinging its claws at Shara. She caught one claw with both hands, her body straining, muscles trembling. Daniel saw her scars glowing faintly once more, as though the ancient bond had awakened power within her. "Daniel!" Her voice boomed across the arena. She tossed a piece of broken spear that had fallen from one of the dead soldiers earlier. It clattered at his feet. His hands shook as he grabbed it. It was heavy, humming with alien energy. For a moment he thought he could not even lift it. But when he glanced at Shara, her body struggling, her teeth clenched, her eyes burning, something surged inside him. He ran. The beast's chest glowed, its scales pulsing with light. Daniel remembered the carvings on the walls, the weak point, not the head, not the claws, the chest. With a desperate cry, Daniel plunged the spear into the glowing mark. The beast shrieked, its roar shaking the arena so violently that soldiers stumbled. Light burst from the wound, spraying fire and ash. Shara released its claw and slammed her glowing fist into its chest, driving the weapon deeper. The creature convulsed. Its 6 eyes dimmed. With one final scream, it collapsed to the ground, shaking the cavern like an earthquake. Then it lay still, smoke rising from its body. Silence fell. Daniel collapsed, his chest heaving, his arms shaking so hard he nearly dropped the spear. His ears rang from the beast's death cry. Shira stepped to his side, her massive shadow covering him. She looked down at him, her lips trembling. For the first time, her voice was soft, almost breaking. "You, warrior." Daniel stared at her, stunned. He was no warrior. He was just a man. Yet somehow, with her, he had survived the impossible. Above them, the queen's face twisted with rage. Her soldiers pounded their spears again, demanding more blood. But it was too late. Together, Daniel and Shira had passed the trial of strength. The beast's body still smoked, its lifeless form filling the arena with the smell of ash and blood. Daniel staggered on trembling legs, barely able to hold the broken spear. Every breath tore at his chest, but he was alive. Beside him, Shira stood tall, her golden eyes glowing like fire against the darkness. She looked not like a prisoner, not like an outcast, but like a true warrior, a protector. High above, the alien queen's face twisted in rage. Her soldiers slammed their spears against the stone again, their voices rising in cruel laughter. To them, Daniel's survival was nothing but an insult. The queen raised her arm, her voice echoing like thunder. "Enough! This bond ends now!" Her soldiers stepped forward, their weapons blazing with deadly light. Daniel's knees weakened. He knew he had no strength left to fight. He had given everything to survive the trial. But Shira moved before him, her body blocking the soldiers' path. Her roar split the air, shaking the ruins with defiance. "No!" she thundered, her voice raw. "He lives! He mine!" The queen's eyes blazed with fury. "You shame your bloodline! You betray your people!" Shira lowered her head, her scars glowing faintly as the walls lit up once more. She pointed at Daniel, then at herself. Her voice cracked, but it carried across the chamber. "Together. Bond." Daniel's heart raced. He didn't fully understand what the bond meant, but he felt it, deep in his chest, in the tingling scar where the spear had cut him. It was more than touch, more than trust. It was life itself, binding them as one. The queen snarled, "Then face the curse of your choice." Her soldiers lunged forward, spears raised. Death was seconds away. Daniel acted without thinking. He reached out and grabbed Shira's massive hand, his smaller fingers wrapped around hers, trembling but unyielding. The ruins exploded with light. Every carving across the walls ignited, glowing brighter than the sun. The hunters shattered into dust, their weapons breaking apart mid-strike. The queen herself reeled back, shielding her eyes as a wave of golden fire swept through the chamber. Daniel gasped as the warmth surged into him. The bond was real. He could feel Shira's strength, her heartbeat, her pain, and she could feel his. For the first time, they were not two beings. They were one. The queen staggered, her voice cracking with fury. "Impossible. A human cannot." But her words drowned in the roar of the ruins. The ancient laws she had written had turned against her. The bond had been chosen, and no power, not even hers, could erase it now. Shira tightened her grip around Daniel, lifting him slightly so his feet no longer touched the ground. Her golden eyes burned as she stared up at her mother. "He is mine, and I am his." Daniel's throat tightened. He whispered the words he had held back for too long. "You're not alone anymore." The chamber shook one final time. The queen shrieked in fury, her soldiers scattering as the ruins themselves began to collapse. Shira carried Daniel in her arms, leaping through falling stone and blinding light. When the dust finally cleared, they stood outside the ruins. The night sky stretched above them, the stars endless. Daniel gasped the fresh air, his chest aching with relief. Shira set him down gently, her massive hand still holding his. She looked at him silently, her lips trembling. her scars glowing faintly with golden light. Daniel smiled weakly. First bond, right? For the first time, Shara laughed. It was a low, broken sound, but it was real. She pressed her forehead gently against his, careful, tender. In that moment, the galaxy changed forever. A human and an alien giantess, two beings never meant to stand together, had broken every rule. And in doing so, they had written the first page of a new story. The story of the first bond.